Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a B-movie review, and today I'm going to be having a look at Robin Hood Ghost of Sherwood, or simply Ghost of Sherwood as it's known here in the UK. So this film has literally just been released in the UK, and I just caught it, and it is a kind of a bit of a strange film really. It's obviously based on Robin Hood, and but the strange thing is it's actually filmed in Germany with a largely German cast. And not only that, they've redubbed it with kind of like, certainly not English accents. Some of them have been redubbed in, I think, better English speaking German people, and some of them sound like maybe American, but certainly none of them are English. So that's the first thing. Now, this is a very, very low budget film, as most of these films sort of tend to be honest with you. So once again, I'll stress I kind of won't be looking at it in the same sort of critical light that you'll be looking at these sort of modern blockbusters. Now, the positives of this film, I'd actually say it's actually quite a good idea. Now, if you're sort of ever familiar with sort of Robin Hood mythology, a lot of it is sort of said that a lot of things are said that the sheriff's men and the Normans or what have you are often afraid to go into to Sherwood Forest because they think it's haunted. And that's the thing here, is like, what if Sherwood Forest actually was haunted, and not only just haunted, but haunted by Robin Hood and his men? Now, it's an interesting film. Like I said, it's very, very cheap, but I would say that the location shots are great. It's obviously filmed in a real forest, and some of the actual the camera work I think is pretty decent for its budget. So I was impressed with that, and I actually like the idea of it. So I actually think the actual story and the idea has some good elements. It does maybe break down in a few places, which I'll come on to in just a second. But it's, it has some positives. So the negatives. Now, first of all, some of these, and I'll try and get them out of the way first, you're going to have to kind of roll with it because of the budget. So the first thing is the costumes. The costumes look like they were bought out of... well, the majority of costumes, at least, I bought out of a sort of a fancy dress shop, like a Robin Hood fancy dress shop. Unfortunately, so they're actually, a lot of them are wearing like modern shoes. If you have a look, so and the sort of the costumes that they do have is kind of like these like a green unitard almost type things like that, sort of Robin Hood's men. If we're being historically accurate as well, obviously, the sheriff's men aren't wearing the correct colours. They kind of wear I think it's yellow and red, when they should be wearing blue. But there you go, small point there, because I don't think everyone would realise that, but there you go. So costumes. The acting, as I say, doesn't help that a lot of these lines are dubbed, but the acting seems, for the most part, uniformly sort of wooden, to be honest with you. They don't look like professional actors to me. You have two names you may recognise. It's got Tom Savini, who is mainly known for his makeup work in a lot of horror films, but he does seem to have this like... this sort of like habit of turning up kind of low budget horror films, but he's not in it a whole lot. I think he's possibly in maybe 3 scenes maybe, and his screen time's probably no more than sort of 10 minutes. And I don't know, he almost sounds dubbed to me as well, but I'm not 100% sure if that's correct or not. But he's obviously American, so he can obviously speak English sort of clearly, but to me he sounds dubbed also. You've also got Kane Hodder, who he plays Little John. And here's a weird thing, because we're introduced to Robin Hood's men fairly early on in the film, but Little John is absent for no particular reason, and then he sort of turns up when pretty much all the other merry men are dead, which I'll come on to in just a second. So I don't think he's dubbed. So he's Kane Hodder, in case you don't know, was actually a stuntman originally, and he plays a lot of movie bad guys like Jason Voorhees and all that. So he's normally the sort of the man behind the mask, and then he's quite a big bloke, obviously. So they're kind of only sort of certainly actors that you're going to recognise. I don't know if any of these other sort of actors are sort of have done anything in Germany, to be honest with you, but they don't certainly seem like massively professional actors. Although it's difficult to tell because they may be great, but you don't know because they're dubbed. Their voices are dubbed. So the actual plot is interesting, as I say. Now it kind of starts off. It has a little bit of an intro. If you just sort of skip that bit, really, it actually starts off as a fairly standard sort of fantasy film, and the way it kind of presents itself is not a particular. It's weird. The first half of this film is basically your kind of standard Robin Hood adventure, and it's Robin Hood as he meets Maid Marian. There are some changes, obviously, here into the legend and things like that. But it kind of reminds me. I think maybe they were trying to channel the old Robin of Sherwood. It did seem to sort of maybe try and sort of ape that in some places. Certainly with the magic aspect of it. So you've got a good portion of this film really just dealing with Robin Hood trying to sort of steal treasure to give to the poor. Nothing to do with ghosts or zombies or anything in this first portion of the film. But what's interesting is they basically Maid Marian sort of joins him, and she's cousins up to Tom Savini's character, the Sheriff of Nottingham. And she basically says, like, he's got loads of gold, and I can help you get it. And so they sort of, three of them. They got Robin Hood, who looks like he's played by this kind of heavy metal dude, Will Scarlet, and Friar Tuck. They all try and sort of, get this gold. It's kind of almost hijinks. It almost looks like comedy, this bit, and it's kind of like, reminds me of, this bit, it almost reminds me of like when they're actually trying to get the treasure. It reminds me of that sort of Saturday morning sort of, action sort of TV show that was on during the day for families and stuff like that. And it really doesn't it's really not sort of gory at all at this point. So they manage to steal the treasure, but ultimately they end up sort of getting captured. And then the sheriff's men kill Will Scarlet and Friar Tuck. Robin manages to escape, but is shot by an arrow. And then you start to get a little bit more supernatural. And this is maybe why, what I think maybe with the Robin of Sherwood comparisons here, this witch manages to find him basically and sort of brings him back from the dead, and it basically says you can live for 2 years and you've got to give me a soul. And he also says, okay, fine, but I'll give you my soul as long as you give me a way to bring back Will and Tuck. So he says, I'll take this potion, and as long as you sort of give it to them within 24 hours, they'll be fine. So that's what he does. So later on, he sort of tells Maid Marian, I've made this deal with this witch and what have you. So there's no point in us really having a future. So she's at this point sort of fallen in love with him and sort of tromps off there to sort of demand that she release him of his contract. And they sort of said, well, if we get you all this gold, you can sort of entice men to sort of give you their souls for riches and stuff like that, which he agrees to. But none of that actually is irrelevant, because while this is all going on, the sheriff's men are basically slaughtering the merry men. So they, at this point, they go back and Maid Marian sees everyone's dead, and around this time she sort of meets Little John, who's been absent for the first half of this movie, and everyone is dead apart from Little John and Marian, including Robin Hood. So they basically go back to this witch and essentially kill her and steal all her potions and give this sort of like the potion that was used on Will and Tuck to all of the merry men, not knowing that it's been over 24 hours and therefore the effects are different. And essentially they come back as sort of zombies. And initially they don't seem to be violent initially. They just kind of seem to be acting out like what they used to. They sort of, collecting wood and sort of, fleecing people for treasure and stuff. But soon they start turning into sort of flesh eaters and what have you. And then basically it's Will and John trying to escape them with this seemingly bag of potions with these kind of, they all have these like different effects, including laser eyes. If they almost look like they have like a thing from Call of Duty where all these missiles come down from the skies and sort of like blow stuff up. It's quite funny to watch. It's like it's so over the top, some of this magic just from this little potion. All these like meteors are coming down and blubbing like almost like napalm or whatever. And they basically trick the Sheriff of Nottingham, sort of going to the forest and sort of, oh, there's a lot of drunk people in there, so you know you better deal with them. And then that's pretty much it. Then it ends. So there is now. Wait to this. It ends. Then you have to watch the credits for a little bit. Then there's a good 5-minute scene afterwards as well. We're not just talking a little zinger here. It's a good sort of 5-6 minute scenes, which actually sort of takes place a little bit afterwards, which is looks like Little John has taken over the kingdom somehow. But anyway, and that's kind of the film. So it's. I think it has some good ideas in it. I don't think it was. It's nearly 2 hours long, so for a B movie, this film was fairly long. I don't think it needed to be quite that long. The initial parts of it could have been way cut down, because that was literally a good hour of the film which had nothing supernatural in it at all. The only thing you had was, and this didn't make sense, is you had this potion which changed the way people look. And Maid Marian takes it to sneak into the castle, but what I didn't understand is she's meant to be the cousin of the Sheriff of Nottingham, but he only recognises her in her disguised form, which he's never had before. So I don't know how he recognises her in that form and not her actual what she looks like. And he's obviously seen her before, so I don't know. That confused me that bit. But there you go. So it's kind of, it has some good ideas. It should have been cut down. It ends a little bit too abruptly for me, and the sort of the last sort of in the credits bits was also a little bit random. It almost seems like that has blatantly been filmed a lot later and kind of stuck onto it, but it still doesn't really make sense. There's different characters in there who you haven't even seen before, and it's just, you know, I don't know. But it had some good ideas. So I'll give it that, and I did like the idea that what it takes, as I say, from the sort of like the spiritual side and how people fear Sherwood Forest and things that's haunted and stuff, and playing on that. So I thought that was a good idea. The makeup effect on the zombies was interesting, because initially they just have literally green faces, and I just thought, oh my god, just crappy makeup. But as the film goes on, they sort of progressively get more. Not even, because they start having pointy ears and stuff. They almost look more like orcs from Lord of the Rings. So the makeup was patchy. Some bits it was quite good, but some bits it was, you know, it looked pretty lame. But they sort of tried to keep Robin relatively human looking, but because obviously he's meant to be good looking, I suppose. But you know, it was a mixed bag, this film. But I'm going to give this one a 4.5 out of 10, because I did think it had some good ideas in it. It wasn't executed particularly well. Have you seen it? Leave me a comment. Look forward to seeing you next time. See you later.